All right, my name is Eleanor Goodall. I live with my husband Bill on a farm north of Anoka. Over time, we've had sheep, goats, chickens, turkeys, laying hens, bred dogs for 5 years. We don't have any animals now. We still keep bees, and we harvest the honey every fall. I worked for 25 years for nonprofits. I've always written, but this is the first time I've written a novel. Well, I think it's a fun, pretty easy read. It's about a group of international college students who are studying abroad in Venice, Italy. Some interaction, their friendships, their relationships, along with lots of information about Italy and Venice in particular. Well, it didn't start out as the title, but then as I got writing, I think that often happens. They have a working title, it isn't the final one. I realized as I was writing it that in order to get anywhere in Venice, you have to walk on water. You're either walking over one of the 4 bridges on the Grand Canal, or you're walking over a little arch bridge on a smaller canal. You're on a vaporetto, which is the water bus, or a gondola. It's a city that is made of about 118 islands or mudflats, all joined together by water. So anywhere you go, you're walking on water. And that was the inspiration for the title. Each year, my husband and I take one of our grandchildren anywhere they want to go in the world. And a couple of years ago, we had our 16-year-old granddaughter in Italy. And I watched her fall in love with everything about Venice, the back streets, the canals, everything. She also had studied for a semester in Uruguay and was headed to France to study for a year in Paris. So the two things kind of came together in her love of Venice and studying abroad, and that she was the impetus for the book, the inspiration. It's dedicated to her. Well, Bill and I have 9 grandchildren of varying ages, but lots of them are in their teens. And I've seen the, it's not angst, but it's a challenge for them to form friendships and relationships now. I think in the electronic age it's very, very different from when we were growing up. And the nuances of interaction is kind of missing. So I wanted to explore kids forming relationships, but in a little bit different venues. So these are kids from all over the world. There's China and Spain and Finland and everywhere, put together in a very nice setting. I wanted to get out of the United States. And their relationships, their adventures, their escapades while they're studying in Venice. It's kind of a romp of a book. It doesn't have a deep plot. Probably my favorite part is over the Christmas vacation, the protagonist and 3 others, the 4 kids, travel to Cinque Terre, which is a beautiful, rustic, rural, hilly area of Venice. It's, as the title suggests, it's 5 little towns joined together on rocky cliffs and hillsides. And you get from town to town on a little milk train, or you hike between the towns. Very different from all of the cathedrals and museums and monuments that you think of in terms of Italy. We've hiked there 3 times now, and I love it. So that's probably my favorite part. Well, actually, Abbott is kind of a combination, and without naming names, I pretty thoroughly researched. I had it written, this huge book on the computer, and actually I'd printed out some of it and had my grandchildren and granddaughter and their friends read it to see if I was on the right track, and they liked it, and there's some funny little things that they suggested. I obviously thought of the traditional publishing first, and as I researched that online, it became evident that you have to have an agent in order to go that way. So purely on spec, I sent out about 12 query letters to agents that at least online, expressed an interest in this genre of fiction. Of the 12, I probably got 4 back that were undeliverable, so I assume they're no longer agents, and another 4 that were rejections, and another 4 that didn't bother to reply. So I sort of scratched my head and said, I don't think that's going to work unless you have this dynamite novel and really know how to query it. So then I started looking at self-publishing or all kinds of ways of doing it without surrendering your book to a traditional publisher. That part of it was kind of iffy for me too. I thought, you know, once they own it, they can change the title, change the cover, they can change the story, and you've given up control. So it's kind of like a baby, you know, when you've given birth to this book and you want to think twice about who gets it. So I'm not going to name names, but I did research all kinds of publishers online, and then I started making phone calls. And if you've done this, once you initiate a call and let them know you have a fully written manuscript, you get called back a lot. So they're hungry. I talked to all of them. I probably had about 6. And I'm kind of a literal person, so I created a little graph that had the things across the top that I would like a publisher to do for me, and down the side the different publishers I'd talked to, and I filled in the little boxes. I chose Abbott because they have many different choices. It can be as simple as absolute self-publishing, where you write this and you say, all I want you to do is print it and make it look nice, period. No editing, no anything. And that's very inexpensive. All the way up to they will do a full content edit and a full line edit, which is really expensive. So I opted for kind of a mesh in the middle, and sent the book in. The first draft was 175,000 words, which they said was quite large for a novel. But you know, what do you know? It's my first one.
You had a lot to say.
That's just the way it flowed. Well, I had a lot of junk to say, I think. The final book was 114,000, so you know I cut a third of it away. The little package that I picked, and of course the more you pick, the more you pay for, but it's entirely up to you, so it's really nice. I had a content edit and a line edit for about the first 5 chapters, and so somebody actually read the book and gave me feedback, terrific plot feedback, and just a lot of other things that were supremely helpful. So I went back and started cutting it. You know, just verb tense and grammar and punctuate, they were very, very helpful. Abbott is also a division of Writer's Digest. I don't know if you're familiar with Writer's Digest, but so I like that idea that there was more to the company if I ever wanted it. They've been very helpful, very helpful. I don't know whether I did or not. I knew the setting I wanted, and I knew that I wanted kids from all over the world, and I knew that they wanted to study art and culture and language, so I could blend all those things together into the story. And then from our granddaughter and her friends, I would talk about the relationships. You know, you have these beautiful, smart, wonderful girls who their biggest concern in high school is, will they get invited to prom? And the guys, on the other hand, their concern is, if I ask, will she say no? So exploring these different parts of the relationship was part of the process. So working with the kids, having them read it periodically and saying, should this happen? I can segue, this was very interesting. There is no profanity, no sex, no violence in the book, and I kept it that way, so it's just a nice, clean, fun read. But it was deliberate after I'd talked to the kids. You know, they started reading. I had about the first 100 pages written. And I said, so should she, the protagonist, should she go any further with any of these guys? And they said no. So I thought, okay, let's just keep it where they have fun.
Okay, so you sought feedback from...
Feedback from the kids, and I knew that I wanted to write it in Italy, in Venice, and I knew I wanted it to be about kids studying abroad. And then it just flowed, probably too easily, given the fact that it took so much revision. Well, not exactly. The package that I signed on for had this brief edit, but they did read the whole book and give me some plot ideas that were so good. But I bought the Chicago Book of Style and did the line edit. There were a lot of funny things that I'd done that I know better. You know, I had dangling participles all over the place that I had to change into verbs. So it was really hard work, but I learned a lot. Well, I chuckle because I have my 2 grandsons from Guatemala at prep school up here, and they come to us every other weekend or so, and they knew I was writing this, and they were almost, do we have to read it? So, as I would explain what it's about, target audience really is female. Tweens, teens, young women, college women, young moms, even older women if they have a yearn to travel. But I'd say definitely female.
Okay.
Not a chick book, but you know, the interest, I think, is female. Well, Abbott is doing some promotion. They created you know, again, you can pick how much you want them to do. They created a press release and they send it out to on the web to whomever they think would be interested in this kind of book. They're kind of branding it as a book that is encouraging young people and students to travel, students to study abroad. You know, most colleges have study abroad programs, and the tuition you pay at the college covers the study abroad. Sometimes it even covers more than that, so you've got the airfare to go there. And I'm trying to say, move out of your comfort zone and do this. It's a global society we live in. You need to find out what makes other people tick. It will help you in any profession or job you choose, and it will make you a better person. So they sent me a questionnaire that ended up being about 19 pages about all of kind of the questions you're asking now that I filled in, and from that they create a marketing plan. Personally, I sent books to lots of just sent them as a gift to lots of friends throughout the United States with a little paper that I'd put in it that if you like it, tell other people, kind of thing. And I did start going to libraries to give them a book, but there's a couple of approaches there. If you just donate a book, it goes into the donated book pile and anybody can take it home. One of my approaches was, if you have a Friends of the Library group, I'd be happy to talk to them about the creative process or the publishing process, because I figure if they're friends of the library, they're readers and maybe some of them are writers. And I do have one commitment to speak to a group and another semi-firm commitment. When I realized after about the 4th one, first of all, it's time consuming. We have beautiful libraries in the Twin Cities, but they're in kind of out of the way places. And Hennepin County Libraries has, I don't know how many, 20, 30 branches. And in order to get into their catalog, which would be ideal, you need to fill out a form and attach any reviews that you have and send them a book, and they make a decision. So the individual libraries don't really make a decision. I'd also like to, or plan to, visit middle school and high school librarians, kind of in my area, and just say, I'd like to donate this to your library. So that's my personal way. Friends that I picked, I tried to remember who had said they belonged to book clubs, because I'd like to go that route too. But it's kind of hit and miss. You know, I thought about that because my husband has asked me that too. I off and on spend about a year writing it, and I did not have a hard time doing this. I wrote it on boats, I wrote it in planes and airports and in the house and at our home in Guatemala, and you know, wherever I had a niche. I did not have to be in a special little room. So it just kind of flowed for all 175,000 words.
That's impressive.
Well, if I knew, and I don't know that this is true, it took a year to revise and rewrite it. The writing was fun. The second year was really hard work. So if I had known this, I might have paid a little more attention, thought a little more about what I was writing instead of just letting it go.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that works. You know, maybe just letting it go is how it gets created, and then you chop and cut it to turn it into a book. If you think too much about grammar and verb tense and length and sentence structure, perhaps that inhibits some of the flow. So I don't know. That is a really good question. I think if any of us knew the answer, we'd be jumping up and down doing it. I think obviously having a good story to tell is crucial, but there's lots of people with good stories to tell that don't get it out. That said, I think an attractive cover, a catchy title that makes something that makes people pick it up and look at it, or if they're browsing Amazon, they see it and think, oh, that looks kind of cool, I think I'll look inside. So if you can get them to turn it over in a bookstore, read the back, open it up, then I think a terrific opening line and a very grabbing first chapter. They'll read 2 or 3 pages, I think, and if they like that, they'll buy it. Aside from that, I don't know, the right story at the right time in front of the right people. It's a bit of a crapshoot. Not really. I do have some notes on a second book with the same protagonist in a different setting, not in school but working, and some similar kinds of themes. I'm also working with an orthopedic surgeon on a short little book about, it was his idea, I just said I'd help him write it, on how parents can raise their children helping parents to raise their children to be successful adults, successful kids. So we're just working on that. I don't know if anything will come of it. You can buy Walking on Water anywhere that you would buy any other book, literally. Obviously, you can buy it from Abbott Press. You go on Amazon.com and type in Walking on Water, and up it comes. There's quite a few books called Walking on Water, actually, but depending on how many hits, I vary from the first one that comes up to the third or the fourth, and then you just click on it and buy it. You can buy it in hardcover, softcover, or Kindle there. If you go on Kobo.com, you can buy it formatted for any kind of e-reader. There's about 5 of them. Bricks and mortar, big bookstores, little bookstores, you just go in and they'll order it. So any place you'd buy a book, you can buy this book.
Of course, yours has the beautiful cover with the Venice.
Yes, the Scalzi Bridge over the Grand Canal.
Yeah.
I've heard people say my husband took that picture, that I should
Really?
give him photo credits for it. Yeah. And on the back of the book is a picture of our granddaughter, who is the inspiration for it.